All right, it says we're live, so when I go in here, I should see our live screen up. Yes, I see us, so we are here live. There we go. That is us up on the screen. So I've got me up on that big screen so I can see what's going on, and I've got us up here so that we can talk. Here we are. Welcome into Ozpinions. We are here today to talk a little bit about some superheroes. So, superhero movies and stuff like that is basically what our topic is going to be for today. I definitely do hope that everyone is having a wonderful day today. I know that I am. Bear with me just a moment while I share our stream here so that we can try to get a few people in to chat with us. At least so I hope. Takes me just a moment here because I do have to share on multiple places. Okay, that is done for that one. No, thank you. Asking me if I want shit, and I don't want shit, especially not shit that they want to give me. And there's two. And I believe we just need one more, which is here. And we're going to do that. And then... So I watched Eternals, and actually have gotten into a few discussions on a few different Marvel groups based on that movie at this point. Nothing derogatory, nothing mean, just, getting in there and trying to have an open and honest discussion about the movie and about people's perceptions of it and the perceptions that they had going into it prior as well. Because what I seem to be noticing and finding is issue that people are having with the Eternals is it doesn't follow the formulaic thing that people are used to from Marvel at this point. People are used to a certain set of circumstances happening in a certain way, and that didn't happen in this particular movie. So therefore, I think people are a little bit more upset with how that came out and how things ended up being in the movie. But I, for one, personally believe that they handled it very well for an origin story, and especially for one that was trying to introduce over 10 characters and some major concepts that really hadn't been discussed within the MCU itself. Being that they did it within that 2-hour time frame, obviously there's going to be some problems with it, but it's a lot better. I think it probably would have been a lot better to do as a mini-series or something like that, as like a Disney Plus series, as opposed to that blockbuster movie, like do a setup and then do a movie afterward after you'd gotten all the characters established. Do an Avengers style movie or something like that, bringing them all together on the big screen, and then people would have that background and feel a more cohesive trust of the characters and stuff. I think part of the problem is people didn't feel that vesting that they got. Like with the Avengers, we had Thor have a solo movie, Iron Man had a solo movie, Cap had a solo movie, and even though at the time it wasn't really considered, but the Hulk had his separate movie. Hawkeye was introduced in Thor. Black Widow was introduced in Iron Man. So pretty much the entire cast for Avengers was in one way, shape, or form introduced in other movies and fleshed out a little bit. So by the time we got to the point where they were all to be together on screen, and everything, we already had these characters in our minds. We were already kind of feeling who they were. I think the problem that a lot of people are having with Eternals right now is we were thrown this huge cast of characters. We were given this story that, you know, kind of came out of nowhere, and people are like, well, how come they didn't do this, and how come they didn't do that, and how come the other heroes weren't here to do this? Well, it wasn't about bringing all the heroes together. It was about establishing this new cast of characters, this new set of people who are going to be part of the universe. It was about establishing the cosmic aspect, the celestial aspect, the old universe aspect of the MCU into the current, you know, or the lore from the comics into the MCU. These are not meant to be Earth-based heroes per se. They're meant to be travelers and stuff like that. They're meant to be more along the lines of a Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that. They're not an Earth-level Avengers type thing. It was never really intended for them to really be quote-unquote just that. With the powers that they have and everything, they're supposed to be more of a cosmic thing, and Marvel's been trying to do that lately. They've been trying to bring in more of the cosmic. We had Avengers, and we had a little bit here and there. We had Thor, we had Thanos and stuff like that that were coming in. We had some cosmic but this is, you know, this is supposed to be even bigger. These guys are supposed to be even more of a thing. You know, Celestials. These guys. Nowhere is this is the head of a Celestial that's been cut off and hollowed out and made into a thing. So on Guardians of the Galaxy, when they go to Nowhere, that's actually the head of a Celestial. So these concepts are not totally new to the MCU, but they are new enough for a lot of people who may not be comic readers and stuff, that they might find it a little bit hard to initially get their head around some of the concepts and some of the characters. So, yes, I do agree they could have introduced this group in a better way or a different way that would have been more smooth and probably would have caused a little bit less chafing that people seem to be having. But I think considering what they were working with, they did a pretty good job. We got introduced to the entire cast of characters. I felt that certain characters didn't get enough screen time, but it was explained why they weren't getting that screen time anyways. Obviously, Salma Hayek, Ajak, did not get a lot of screen time because of her character, you know, being killed off. And Thena, you know, Angelina Jolie's character, we had a good explanation of why we weren't getting to see her very much, and Faustus. So it was all, or Gilgamesh, I mean, it was all definitely played out, but we got to see enough of the characters. The one character I really wish we had seen some more of, and we had seen done a few more things, because he kind of, for some reason, I just felt like he was a little comic relief, but I really liked his character, was Kingo. I thought he was pretty interesting, and some of his powers and everything I thought were pretty cool. The issue that I ended up having with that, with him and everything, was that he kind of in the end just was like, you know, I was just sent here to do my job, and I'm just going to do my job type of mentality after everything that happened with everyone. So I kind of got a little bit disappointed on that aspect of it. But other than that, I thought they did a pretty damn good job with the whole thing overall. And I do believe that it leaves plenty open that we can see a lot more coming along. And I'm hoping we're going to see a good story progression here. It also opened up things like bringing in the Black Knight and Blade and all that. So it was nice to see that coming in as well, introducing that kind of the darker side, the Midnight Sun kind of side of the Marvel verse. It's really nice to start seeing that. I'm hoping that means that maybe with some of the darker characters starting to come in, that maybe we'll get a chance to see John Bernthal's Punisher come into the MCU. I really thought he did an excellent job on the Netflix series, and I would like to see him become the MCU version of the Punisher, the one that we will see on the big screen. And we're kind of, with getting Moon Knight and a couple other things like that, that is kind of setting that bent up, that more darker anti-hero type thing, which is definitely going to be a Punisher type person. He definitely would be an anti-hero, someone who has his own moral subset that he follows, but might not actually be fully quote unquote moral. But I think that I liked the movie versions of Punisher. I did like Thomas Jane when he did it. I liked I can never remember his name, but the guy who ended up doing after Thomas Jane, the one who did Punisher Warzone. I can never remember his name, but I thought he did a really good job with it himself. I felt that the effort that he put into it and the menace that he brought to the character by the way he played it was really good. But when John Bernthal came out and did his, I was just blown away. And in fact, I'm trying to find something to watch right now because I'm kind of caught up with most things. I do have to go upstairs at some point and watch a few things on the TV up there. But as of right now, I need to find some stuff to watch down here between this live and my next live, which will be at 4 p.m. over on Transcendent. I'm going to be hanging out there and just doing a chat session hangout. And I did a live just a while ago on Ozzy's Stoner Gaming where I played some Mario Kart and hung out and talked. And like I said, one more live today, and then I'll be, and I'm setting off my portal gun, which does work. I hope I didn't just portal you guys into like the Cronenberg world or something like that. That wouldn't be good. Cool. That looked pretty good on the big screen. So, yeah. The other thing that I just watched was I saw Injustice on HBO Max. I kind of flip back and forth between DC and Marvel a lot. I'll watch a set of movies on one, then go and watch a set of movies on the other. DC, I kind of prefer the DCAU to the DCEU, that being obviously the DC animated universe. I think DC really blows it away with their animated movies. I feel that their big screen adaptations, their DCEU movies, some I like, some I feel kind of fall a little flat. I like them all in their own way. I do kind of give every movie its own kind of birth and give each one its own due consideration. There's very few movies that I am so totally hating on that as soon as I watch it, I'm like, I am not going to watch that movie ever again. There's very few movies that I've had that with. But when it comes to superhero movies, I will go back to them. Like, even Howard the Duck, I've watched probably 3 or 4 times at this point. And, that's... it's considered one of the worst movies of all time. But I, for one, really liked it. I thought it was cute back in the day when I watched it. I had a crush back then on Téa Leoni as well. So, obviously, she was the main female protagonist in it. So, therefore... I liked it. I thought Howard was funny, and I believe, if I remember right, it was John Lithgow that played the bad guy in there, and he was pretty freaking funny. I always thought that he was pretty funny back in the day. So I like that movie. You know, I always like those big kind of splashy, sci-fi movies. Sci-fi movies are definitely one of my wheelhouse movies, and I've always been into that kind of stuff. Star Wars and stuff like that have always been things. Star Trek, always been stuff I've watched. Superhero movies were definitely something that once they were coming on was something I was definitely going to jump into. But I remember even back in the day when I was, watching, just reading comics even, I was like, I would get Wizards comic book thing, and it would go over, who they thought would make a good casting for X-Men. And then they'd have a breakdown of all the people that they picked out who were going to be in there. I used to collect that back when I collected comics. I collected the Wizard Price Guide as well back in the day. And they had a lot of good articles. I've since lost all those articles and everything. I'd probably find them online, but they had some interesting picks back in the day of who they thought would be good casting. And now, as you look back at it, some of them actually were spot on, and some of them, you just sit there and go, wow. And I see people doing it nowadays too. They'll do it on on Facebook. You can see in different groups people have their picks for, a new X-Men cast, a new Justice League cast, the cast for Wakanda Forever, or whatever, who they think should play these characters in the MCU and DCEU and wherever. But for me, anyways, the original X-Men, obviously, they were kind of the first real big, other than Blade, real big kind of movies that really started popping up on the screen for Marvel type things, which at the time, that was what I was really collecting, was Marvel. And my favorite of the Marvels was X-Men and Wolverine, so therefore that drew me that much more. I was always looking to see more of what was going on with Wolverine, what was happening with that. So when it came the chance to watch it on TV, on the big screen, I already had that desire to see it. At that point, most of the DC stuff that I knew of was not comic based, was mostly movie and stuff like that based. I knew of the comics, I read them here and there, but I wasn't a collector of DC comics at that point. I have since gotten into some of it. Flash and Green Lantern are my favorite characters to follow as individual characters, comic-wise, in the DCEU, and then, of course, Justice League. That's the other major. Like I said, when it comes to movies and shows and stuff like that, I'll watch pretty much any of them. I've been watching The Young Justice, that is currently in its 4th season. And it's available on HBO Max. I'm waiting for the next episode to come out because I'm looking forward to figuring out exactly what's going on. I have some ideas of what's going on in it, but I wonder if they're going to follow what I'm thinking, or if they're going to try to subvert expectations with what they're trying to do. But it seems pretty interesting. I'm trying to talk about most of the stuff with as little spoilers as possible. I also did see the Venom Let There Be Carnage, and I know a lot of people are down on that movie as well, but I think, again, it's one of those, it's got its own place. Whether it fits into the MCU at this point, no, obviously it doesn't. First of all, it was a Sony production, and they made some promises in there that we're not going to get to see fulfilled on, according to what happened in No Way Home and stuff like that. But I think the good thing about what they've done is Tom Hardy has done a good job with the Venom and Eddie Brock character, and I believe that if Sony retains the rights to a solo Venom, and it does not revert to Marvel for some reason, and Marvel chooses to only use Venom as a secondary character in Spider-Man movies and things like that, and not as its own full character, I think Sony will probably continue to make some more Venom movies, because it does seem like it can be profitable. And the other thing is, as we saw at the end of it, they kind of do, and this is a spoiler, so please, if you haven't seen it, please skip ahead like 5 minutes or so in this. They did kind of reveal the multiverse at the end of Venom 2, so maybe they could even have a Sony multiverse going on concurrently with the Marvel universe for the characters that Sony still owns rights to and is currently unwilling to give up or unable to give up for whatever reason. And we can still see some of our characters that we love that we haven't been able to see because of rights distribution issues. I used to like Venom. He was my favorite of the Spider-Man cadre. Not just of the villains, because at the time he actually was a villain, but of all the Spider-Verse, he was pretty much my favorite, with the exception of maybe Spider-Man 2099. I did really like that comic. That was kind of a 90s thing there. The whole 2099 timeline that came out was definitely a total product of the 90s. But again, that was when I was working at the comic store. That was what I was selling, so that was what I was reading a lot as well. But I will say that movie-wise, now that we have what we have, we definitely have it available that we can see a lot more than we ever had before. Superhero movies have become a part of the zeitgeist, a part of pop culture at this point. What was once considered nerdy and something to be kind of hidden, that you were a comic book collector, that you were a nerd who liked these characters and stuff, has become something that people celebrate and relish now. And I've been one of these people for years, and now I can kind of, in its own way, it's like coming out of the closet. It's coming out and saying, I was a nerd. I have been a nerd all along. I just felt like I had to hide that aspect of myself because people didn't accept it. It wasn't socially something that people were into. It was the same way with the anime and stuff like that, we were classified as being odd and stuff like that. Some people did go a little bit extreme, doing like the Naruto run and shit like that, and really kind of like thinking. I would say, if you wanted kind of an idea of what some people were like, go watch Psyche K, and it's The Disastrous Life of Psyche K. It's on Netflix. Go watch that, and his friend that thinks he's a superhero. That's pretty much what people think of when when you used to talk about anime fans back in the day. That's what people thought of us as. That, we were this over-the-top person. And there was some. And there still is to this day some. But this person who constantly dressed in, cosplay type gear and was always like talking just anime and didn't have anything. It kind of, are people like that out there, but the majority of us weren't. We liked our stuff, but we had other interests as well. So it's kind of tough, because now it's become such a cultural phenomenon that everybody's in on it, everybody's loving it. So now, for those of us that are OGs, we're kind of like, we're dealing with the repercussions of it, and we're like, okay, now we got to bring all these noobs up to speed, which I think is another reason why you see a lot of us around my age doing these kind of channels and stuff like that, because we're trying to bring the new generations in and the people who might just be into the DC EU or AU or into the MCU, but maybe weren't into the comics. So now they're starting to get into it, and now they're going back and trying to learn more. So I think that's a good thing. I hope it will cause that want for more reading. For me right now, this is all the time that I have today. I have another one coming up in about 2 hours over on Transcendent if you want to check me out there. If you would, watching this either now or in the future, please do me that favor of clicking that thumbs up, like button so that I know you're liking my content. Also, definitely make sure that you, make sure that you subscribe to my channel. And make sure you click that notification icon so you'll get notified anytime that I upload new content, and I will be uploading quite a bit more. I have a lot more to talk about and a lot more stuff coming down the road. I'm sorry that I haven't put up as much. I had been sick for a while due to COVID, so now that I'm feeling better, I will be working diligently once again for you guys. So I hope everyone has a great day.